Hello, and welcome to a new episode of I Can Do. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. It is getting hot. Summertime is almost here. And really appreciate you taking some time to listen this morning. Maybe you're driving to work, maybe you're cleaning the house or something like that. I want you to think about the number 85%. With whatever you may be doing right now, you may want to stop and really listen to this even more closely. 85%. 85% of the time that we worry about something, it never happens. 85% of the time. That number may be higher depending upon what study you may be looking at. I was recently listening to another podcast, and the commentator on the podcast or the sports show, he was actually talking about worry. Somehow he had connected it to work or to sports, and he said 85% of the time, the things people worry about, they never happen. I think he was talking about taking big swings in sports and trading for a player or doing something like that. That caught my attention because I have focused a great deal upon overcoming worry for the last year and a half. There is a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. He talks a great deal about living in airtight compartments, leaving the past in the past, not getting caught in the future. But Jesus also spoke about this as well. A large portion of the Sermon on the Mount is all about not worrying. He tells us numerous times, do not worry. Rather, we can go to God in prayer. We can ask for our daily bread. But we are to be devoted to Him. We are not to worry. He even tells us, don't worry about tomorrow. He does not mean that we can't plan for tomorrow, but certainly he's telling us, do not worry about tomorrow. A quote from more than 500 years ago by one man said this: my life has been filled with terrible misfortune, most of which never happened. That's exactly what happens when it comes to worry so many times. Now, what else is interesting, and I'll put a link in the show notes, is that let's say some of the things we do worry about actually do happen. In that same study, they talked about how, well, that 15% of the time, it wasn't as bad or difficult as the people thought that it would may be. And the rest of the time, they learned some kind of valuable lesson from it. So, yeah, it doesn't mean that the things that our minds may be upon may not actually come to pass. They may happen. Sometimes we have a lot of what ifs in our lives. What if I get sick? What if my child gets sick? What if we get in a car accident? What if something happens on the plane? What if the economy tanks? What if I lose my job? There's a lot of what ifs. Sometimes those things may happen. But most of the time, the majority of the time, so many of the things that we worry about never happen. But there are things that do happen. We become plagued with worry. We get in this worry cycle, this worry loop. We almost look for things to worry about. Have you ever noticed that in your life? That we look for problems as well. So, how do we break it? How do we stop worrying and start living? Well, number one, we need to observe some of the patterns that we may actually see in our lives. Why are we worrying? Is this something that we can actually do about it? Is it actually something that we actually need to worry about? I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to do. Number two, we need to cast our cares to God. The Apostle Peter in 1 Peter chapter 5 talks about this. We cast all of our cares to Him. We can have cares, we can have concerns. We give them to the Lord. He is strong enough to carry them for us. Number three, I like what one person says, worry successfully. Maybe you are worried about something. Well, take action if you can. If you're worried about the car breaking down, well, go get the car checked out. And maybe there is something that needs to be addressed, but if not, then that will eliminate that worry. Stay in airtight compartments. That's something else that we can do to eliminate worry. That's one of the first things Dale Carnegie talked about in his book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. We stay in airtight compartments. By that, we don't stay stuck in the past and we don't go too far in the future. Stay in airtight compartments. Another exercise, or one exercise that we can do, get a set of note cards, write out the worries that you have, and put them on the table. Look at them, pray for them, or pray over them, pray them to God in heaven. Look at them and see, okay, what can I actually do to solve or to resolve some of these problems? Take some time to do that as well. All right. That's something else that we can do. But one of the biggest challenges that we get stuck in is this repetitive nature of worry. After hearing about this study and this research, I've been reminding myself 85% of the time, the things that we worry about never happen. They just don't happen. And what a blessing that really is. It's most of the time it doesn't happen. It's a figment of our imaginations. It's different thoughts that we have and different fears that never resolve to anything. So this study looked into how many of our imagined calamities never materialize. In this study, subjects were asked to write down their worries. There's that idea of writing things down over an extended period of time, and then identify which of their imagined misfortunes did not actually happen. Lo and behold, it turns out that 85% of what subjects worried about never happened. And with the 15% that did happen, 79% of subjects discovered either they could handle the difficulty better than expected, or the difficulty taught them a lesson worth learning. Do not worry. This means, the article states, that 97% of what we worry over is not much more than a fearful mind punishing you with exaggerations and misperceptions. That's a pretty shocking thought when you really think about that, isn't that? That our minds will often play tricks on us, and we can allow those things to happen if not careful. If we could get a handle, and I'm reading this, on the worry that habitually, incessantly, and often unconsciously seizes hold of our mind, we would greatly increase the odds of living a longer, happier, and more successful life. But don't worry. New research has found that you can rewire your brain to stop worrying. So if we've been a constant worrier, it does not mean that we have to stay that way. We can rewire our brain. Habits that we pick up are habits that we can let go. It starts with the decision not to believe the misfortune that your worried thoughts see in your future. An example of someone who made that decision is an elderly woman. My friend in this article says, Martha, she was asked to drive to the clinic for an annual checkup. Martha did not know this woman. All she was told was that this person was more than 90 years old and probably quite frail. But the person who opened the door when Martha knocked could hardly be described as old and frail. The person who stood before Martha was a sprightly lady who appeared to be in her 70s at most. Do you mind me asking how old you are? Martha asked on the drive to the doctor. 93, the woman answered. Martha was astonished. You look so much younger. She said, what's your secret? The article goes on to say, well, honey, she answered, 30 years ago. So that would put her at 63. 30 years ago, I made the decision to stop worrying, and I haven't wasted a moment on worry since. Let me hit the pause button right there. What would happen to our lives if we said, I'm just going to stop worrying? Think about that for a moment. Is that even possible? The answer is yes. But as this article says, it has to be a decision that we make, that we can let go of worry gradually, then leave it all behind altogether. So I think that's something really impactful. When I heard that, I thought that was something really great to hear. this article gives some other approaches to dissolving worry. Let me read this here with you as well. The article goes on to say another simple approach to dissolving worry is called finish each day and be done with it. Finish each day and be done with it. It facilitates the choice to let go of the day's problems so you don't take them home. I love that idea. You may be thinking, well, what if I work from home? That's okay. You can still finish the day and be done with it. Cal Newport in his book Deep Work, I believe it's in Deep Work, he talks about this idea of having a shutdown routine for work. One of the things that he emphasizes is saying out loud, work is complete, or something to that effect, or shutdown complete, where we tell our minds, I am done with work for the day. Work shutdown complete. I am done for the day. Or as this person says, finish each day and be done with it. It facilitates, as the article says, the choice to let go of the day's problems. I'm going to begin implementing that today so you don't take them home. This piece of wisdom comes from a letter written by the great American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson to his daughter who was worried over a mistake she had made. This is what it says. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders, losses, and absurdities, no doubt, crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Let today go so you can begin tomorrow well and serenely with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense. Each new day is too dear with its hopes and invitations to waste a moment on yesterdays. Whew. Now that is good. I'm going to put that I'm not going to put that in the show notes because I want you to listen to the podcast, all right? But that is good. I tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to write that down so my wife and son can hear that and read that every day. That's such a great quote. Finish every day and be done with it. By old nonsense, Emerson is referring to our worries and woes. The two are synonymous. In the study, this article says, nonsense and worry were one and the same thing, not once in a while, but nearly every single time. That is a statement that we need to put to heart, maybe even put to memory. And I will close with that statement. Let me read it to you one more time. Maybe you need to hear this. Maybe you need to think about this a little bit more. Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders, losses, and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Let today go so you can begin tomorrow well and serenely, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, with too high a spirit to be encumbered with your old nonsense. Each new day is too dear with its hopes and invitations to waste a moment on yesterdays. Keep that in mind. 85% of the time, though we worry, it never comes to pass. Let's walk by faith. Let's trust in the Lord. Take care and God bless.